Hello, hello, hello. Uh, this is a very special situation, I must admit. I have never done this before, so I hope you are patient with me. Because when I sit behind my harp, I feel safe and I don't think anything can happen. But here, there's some technical stuff that I have to master, and I've never done that. So please bear with me. I will go through the questions and comments, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. The live stream will be recorded at a later state, about 24 hours, I think, and they're available on all channels with subtitles because some of the questions were in German, and I want to give everybody the chance to understand. So there's going to be subtitles. Okay. For me to not completely be overwhelmed, we have deactivated for this time the chat section. So maybe next time, if I really behave well here, we can switch it on again. Okay, so let's start. I have a question here from 6DB. That's the name. He asked me whether I'm planning to come back to the UK and play concerts in the UK. Look, we honestly love to visit the UK again, but it's a bit complicated because right after COVID, we were going to pick up our live activities again, and but after more than 10 years absence from live touring, we have realized that most of our contacts from the earlier years are either not in the business anymore because well, they're fed up with the music business, or some because they're always been many of them were much older than we were. Some of them even have died. So we it seems that we have to rebuild our network of promoters and media and promotion people again. So that is the reason why it will take a bit of time for us to reconnect where we left more than 10 years ago. It's actually 15 years. Now, that's on the other hand, I'm a grandfather also, and now that's the energy resources have to be spent wisely because yeah, there's limitations and excessive touring like in the 80s and 90s. I don't think that would be wise. So, and there's also some aspect when you look at our planet from the moon or above, the planet seems to be tiny, small. But we need when you're here and have to schlep around yourself, all these people, and the instruments, it is quite huge. The planet, so it needs a lot of preparation to be able to go touring again. But be assured, we are on it, and of course, we hope to also be able to come to the UK. All right. So we have the Alantoist. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She or he asked whether she or he is always amazed to know how musicians keep track of their tunes in their heads. Forget the head. That's not where the music comes from, at least not in our case. Improvisation, which is what we do, completely free and unplanned playing, that's the magic trick. That's where it comes from. Improvising in a collective shows that any communication via listening, thinking, and reacting that is far too slow. That would not work if you would just listen. Oh, he or she is going there, then I'm going to there too, and so forth. That's not how communication works in the music. It is more like have you ever heard from quantum entanglement? That's really what this is, or comes close to that. For those who don't know what that is, it's actually quite simple. You have a particle, for instance, we have a photon, and you divide it into two, and one you keep for yourself, and the other one you send 200,000 miles away. And then you change something on the one that you hold in your hands, or that is with you, and instantly, with no time between, the other half of the photon is changing too. So they are, despite the fact that they're far away from each other, they are still entangled. They're still connected, and that is very much what we feel when we play. It goes really quickly. It's like almost one. We are connected. Like we must go into a certain state in which we can activate this profound connection, which is always here, among all things, between all of us, between all things, but it's normally not consciously activated. Internally, we call this magic space when we improvise. And I have a little story to share. I had a project, a musical project with my father at the beginning, end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s. We called it Traumgarten, Dream Garden. And it was, my father was a musician too. He was organist in the cathedral in Zurich, playing on a huge, huge organ. When I was a child, I was always afraid of that instrument because it was so massive. It would overflow you. It would just wash over you. And it was very invasive, I thought. But then when I was a bit older and I have overcome that fear, we had that project together. I've learned to improvise with my father. We played together very many times, and just freely improvised. And so I really appreciated this very much, to have learned that music can be a communication. It's not just wonderful sound, organized, harmonious, and so forth. No, you can be quite specific in how you communicate with each other with music. So we had that project that I was with my instruments in the church, in the cathedral in Zurich, Switzerland, and we were playing together. And sometimes, and maybe I must say that I had my difficulties with my father. He made certain decisions that I didn't really appreciate so much. So I couldn't say that we were totally close and we were just naturally communicating really well together. So, but with the music, it was interesting that we sometimes played over almost an entire song, the same melody in unison, with no going back, going left and right. We just followed almost an invisible guide. And I wouldn't say it's genetic that we had that, but it was surprising that we somehow, for an entire song, we had the same ideas, the same moment. So that's why I'm saying improvisation unveils something, an ability that we people have to communicate on a very deep level. And that's what's the beauty of improvisation. And that's why what all the music that I'm doing is based on that, comes from that. That's the soil of everything that I'm doing. Okay. Then there is Arcadius. He liked this stuff with the orchestra very much, but he preferred, in a way, me playing all by myself, which I did during COVID. I played these mini concerts here in this room, in my studio, and I played many of these mini concerts just by myself, And then I have invited, as soon as it was possible, I have invited Walter Kaiser, my wonderful friend and drummer. And so we were just the two of us. And I must admit, it sounds really like an orchestra because I play the bass at the same time with all the higher notes. And I play simultaneously the rhythm and the melody. And he just fills in with his grooves. So we are, in a way, an orchestra. But having said that, um, I I'm a really huge fan of the richness of a symphonic orchestra. So I must say that um, this symphony orchestra concept is very seductive, and I must admit that I'm doing it also for myself. I love this richness of that sound, and so I know it's a bit selfish, but I love doing that. So I'm doing both. I play all by myself with Walter, with my friends, or with the orchestra. That's really what I appreciate so much in my life. I have all these possibilities. So I hope I have answered your question. Then there is, hang on, Konstantin. He tells me the story that his music teacher has introduced him to our music, and and he thinks that it's triggering a special kind of inner imaginary imagery of inner stories of mind movies, and it's actually one of my main goals that to create that. This has always been how I have experienced music. Music has always brought images to me, and since I can remember, and it somehow became therefore almost like a survival strategy. And already then, when I was a child, I have experienced my fellow humans as to be sometimes really extremely self-limiting, a bit dull, honestly, and unmotivated to vigorously um, explore the beauty of life, which is here. We can just take it. But they all say, no, just wait until it's all over, which has all what we experience, all the positive. It's all beginning in our inner consciousness, our mindfulness that creates it actually. Without this, it's just empty and shallow. And because I myself, as a child, have experienced music to be a powerful booster of these qualities, this has become my passion and my message, which is to remind listeners that there is an enormously powerful treasure inside of ourselves, which is still to be discovered. It waits there. Even if you think you found it, there's still more. So, what I would like to do is to encourage people to to use that booster to encourage people to go and look for more. There is more. That's the beauty. Free playing music is a perfect vehicle to travel to these hidden sources within ourselves. And all that free playing improvisation is the soil in which our music grows. So I never know what's finally coming, which makes it impossible to name a song before it actually appears and can be heard. So the earliest I can name a song, that's part of the question of, Constantine, how I name my songs. I have the earliest I can name a song is when I hear it for the first time. Okay. This question, it comes from Squids Nation. He asks, or she asks me, whether we are going to yeah, go public with our old album Eine Art Suite in 13 Teilen, which has been released in 1980. And I must say, I seem to have forgotten this album completely. I will consider this Thanks for reminding me, but it will take a while. I first have to listen to it again very critically and see how I like it. Then we have RTB21. Are there any instruments you don't know how to play and you would like to learn? Look, I have found my true love. And this is really true. I have played many instruments on my way to find the perfect match. And once I found it, there's no need for me anymore to really search, to go out and look for other possibilities and to have an affair with another instrument. My love is fully satisfying me. It is an extension of myself in many ways. Physically, I love embracing that instrument like a human being, like somebody you deeply love. You just hold it like this. And also there's an extension in many ways, also spiritually, emotionally, mentally. It's the harp is also more than an instrument. It's also my mentor, my teacher. I have learned so many profound things through playing by playing this instrument. It has led me through an enormous adventure and experience. So I found my love. I hope that answers the question. Then there is Severin from Poland. He has lots of questions. I must see how far I get with these. He asks me about the interesting project that I'm involved in, and that is the making music for prematurely born babies. They have a hard time, and they are they're so stressed because they're torn into this world, and they block themselves completely because of that shock, because of that terror that to being torn out of the body and into this world. And in 2013, I got involved into this really wonderful project. I was approached by the head of the university hospital in Geneva, Professor Hüppi. She asked me if I would be willing to create a special music for prematurely born babies as part of an official scientific study. I really liked the idea, I must say, but I was so incredibly busy with many other projects that I thought I had to pass. But today, looking back, I'm so grateful for that Professor Hüppi has insisted. She has finally convinced me to become part of that project. It has become one of my most favorite projects. The problem these little babies have that they are so incredibly stressed being torn into this world that they completely block themselves against any stimuli from the outside. And this lack of stimuli is creates has an unfortunate effect. It their baby is their thinking, their brain activity is massively reduced, and therefore the neuroplasticity is also completely reduced, because for the brain to develop, it needs stimuli. That's absolutely you need that. So by avoiding these stimuli and blocking them out, they have cognitive, social, and emotional deficits later, some of them. And to avoid this, they asked me whether I could come up with an idea, an acoustic, an audio application for these children. I had to address two completely different aspects. First, to reduce the stress, so they would open themselves, and then to introduce stimuli to activate their curiosity. I made a very warm and positive and relaxing sound cloud made out of hundreds of overtones of human voices. And then I have introduced very gentle and very few soft stimuli, like 3 notes on a flute, very, very gentle, a little soft bell, and a single chirp of a bird, and lots of little acoustic artifacts. And the children were exposed to this soundscape 3 times a day. The overwhelmingly positive effect it has had has taken us all completely by surprise. And the response and the interest of the worldwide medical community still is intense. This is definitely a field which I would love to go back and to invest myself more often. This is a wonderful project. On our website, you can see and hear some of that sound, and it's this description of the whole project, of the study. Then there's another question that you asked. The second question was about a visual storyboard that I'm using many times to illustrate the music for the musicians to see the music, to experience the music before they play it, actually, to really to be also free to improvise, but they have like a guide in a way, which is not a musical guide, which doesn't lead them somewhere musically. It frees the mind, and it communicates a story. And he asks me whether I would make these available, these paintings and storyboards and drawings. I will. It's also one of the things I have completely forgotten, but thank you for reminding me of that. The third question is about my novel in Spiegel der Venus. When during that time of almost 15 years of not touring, I wasn't just laying around and celebrating. Celebrating. I have written a novel, and which is planned to be released in English as well. It's in German. And the name will be Pygmalion. For those who know who that was, it's an interesting figure from the Greek mythology. And then the fourth question, whether I have any dreams of collaborations with anyone. I take it as it comes. I make no plans, if ever possible. Plans are just for the amusements of the gods, as we say. And the fifth question is, I have been approached many times by people who wanted to sample my sounds. Yes, I was, to use the music in many other ways. And if I was asked, which I many times have not been, many times just that people took the music and sampled it and used it in whatever context. I was asked, when I was asked, I was mostly rejected it, because I think they should come up with their own sounds. They shouldn't just borrow something and then actually it's kind of a stealing thing. The most extreme case was the rapper Notorious B.I.G. What in the world was his idea to use this music, our music, in context with his music? It's such a different world. Anyway, there's nothing in the world that's there's everything is possible. All right, you asked me. This is a tough question. You asked me about AI. I'm afraid I don't have an answer. We will have to see how it's unfolding and how. Yeah, but I believe that if what you are doing artistically has personality, has character, individuality, is unique, and especially totally and honestly human, you will still can come up with wonderful music that would really touch real human beings. I think that's it. Wow. I hope you had some information that you didn't have before, and I really thank you for being with me here, and yeah, being patient with me, and so forth. Next time, next week, we will repeat that. We will on Wednesday we will play an excerpt of a concert out of our archives, Treasures of the Archives. We call that series. And on Thursday, I again will answer your questions. And just please don't. You can ask anything, any question. It doesn't have to be about the music or so. If you have something that really is on your heart, just and you like to share it, of course, then share it and we will talk about it. Okay. Thank you very, very much and have a wonderful night.